years worth of data
Okay.
that studies that low dose exposure. Also, another thing I'd like to point out about this fallout from atomic weapons testing, actually, we get about 200 times more radiation dose from what we have in our food, which comes from natural background radiation, than actually we've got individually from fallout from the atomic weapons testing.
Okay.
These are common misconceptions about it, that if you study the scientific literature, you'll see it's there.
Finally,
and
Kate Brown,
is available online.
Kate Brown, I also want to... You also say in the book that you think that there's been a deliberate cover-up of these figures.
Well, I find that UN and international experts were eager to help the Soviet leaders minimize the story of a public health disaster after the accident. And the reason why they're interested in that is that the big nuclear powers, the UK, the US, France, faced lawsuits from their own history of testing and producing nuclear weapons. There, the Marshall Islanders in the South Pacific, Australians, people in the American West, Algerians, all kinds of people were upset that they had been exposed to nuclear testing.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed to both Kate Brown and Jerry Thomas. And we did ask to speak to the IEA and the World Health Organization, and they declined to comment.
8 minutes to 9. Think slavery, and the image that comes to mind is someone being held against their will, forced to work for an unscrupulous master for no reward. 4 years ago, this country introduced the Modern Slavery Act, which defines the term rather more broadly, and today the National Crime Agency has produced figures that suggest a record number of potential victims of modern slavery or trafficking have been reported to the authorities, 7,000, and that's a third higher than it was a couple of years ago. Almost half of them were children. Many were involved with so-called county lines, the gangs operated by drug dealers in the big cities who use children to carry drugs into smaller towns and villages. Here's one of those children.
I would walk for 3 hours just to give someone the tiniest bit of weed, you know what I mean? And obviously for a little bit of weed, you'd get £15 because obviously you're so hooked on getting the money. You're right, a bit of money. I don't care how long it takes me to get there. And then obviously you come back, you give the money in, and then you get some money back to keep. It's a vicious circle because you're wait, this is a circle that is never ending. How am I supposed to get out of this? Do you know what I mean? It takes someone to be able to be right, I'm taking her out of that.
Those words spoken by an actress, by the way. Liam Vernon leads the National Crime Agency's Modern Slavery and Human Trafficking Unit, and he's on the line. And with me, Debbie Beadle, Director of Programmes at ECPAT. That's a charity that works with trafficked children, trains people who work with exploited children. And Liam Vernon, these figures, or rather the use to which they've been put to describe slavery, it'll puzzle a lot of people because it isn't their idea necessarily of slavery, is it?
No, good morning, and thank you for having me on the programme. So the NCA report this morning draws out the number of referrals that we had into our national referral mechanism last year. 7,000, I'm sure most people would agree, a big figure, an 80% increase over 2 years. And in terms of modern slavery, well, the terminology has grown. It's human trafficking in the forms that we traditionally understand: sexual exploitation, labour exploitation, and it also incorporates forced labour. But as you've rightly pointed out, our understanding has grown, and as that grows, our response has to as well. And one of the areas that we've drawn out in the last year is around UK children becoming utilised by criminal gangs to move drugs for their own criminal enterprise, really treated as a commodity.
Yeah, a shocking way to treat children, as you say.
Absolutely.
But slavery?
Yeah, so it's quite a broad terminology. So people's understanding might be that you're kind of in shackles if you're a slave, but that is,
or at least entrapped.
But that is absolutely not the reality of modern slavery and human trafficking. Has not been for quite a long time. These are across the board, whether they're adults or children, are really vulnerable people, and there are different ways in which criminal gangs identify those vulnerabilities and have an element of control over them.
And Debbie Beadle, the people who come to you, the children who come to you particularly, how do you deal with them? What are the problems?
Yes, good morning. So I run two youth groups, one for young males and one for young females, victims of trafficking. So they're generally referred to us by a local authority, police or other professionals that come into contact with them. And we have a variety of different children from a variety of different backgrounds.
But is there a common factor to them, the sort of children who will be caught up, who might be caught up in this sort of hideous crime?
Well, like I said, there's a variety of different backgrounds. And the thing around county lines is that, obviously this isn't a new phenomenon. It's been happening for a long